My name is Sean. I'm delighted to join us for today's ESPC community webinar. Today I'm joined by Lakshmi, MVP, who will be covering Breaking the Limits of Native Power BI Visuals live demo. We love hearing what you guys say, so remember join conversation about today's webinar and more on X. Our handle is at ESPC_community and our hashtag is hashtag ESPC26. Tweet us, tag us, and tell us what you learned. Don't forget to check out our Learning Hub, which updates the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. You can access and view the Learning Hub by visiting espc.tech and clicking the Learning Hub tab at the top of the page. Don't forget to join us for our next webinar, Building an Employee Appraisal Assistant with Microsoft Fabric and Copilot Studio with Greenmer, and taking place Tuesday, July 28th, 11 a.m. CEST. To register, visit www.espc.tech Learning Hub webinars. Time's ticking. Your future network is waiting. Don't miss the conversations, insights, and opportunities everyone will be talking about long after the event ends. Secure your place today and be in the room where it happens. Save €300 with code Fabric Week when you book your ticket. Before you switch on your out of office, make one last smart move. Secure your place at FabCon and SQLCon Europe in Barcelona and take advantage of our early bird rates. Book by the 31st of July to lock in early bird pricing and use code Fabric Week to save an additional €300 on your ticket. Enjoy your summer knowing your place is reserved for Europe's leading Microsoft Data and AI conference. Win Lego from Acteris. Scan the QR code to enter today for your chance to win Lego from Microsoft Fabric sponsor Acteris. After the webinar, we'll have a dedicated Q&A session. Please feel free to type any questions you might have in the chat box. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Center, where you will be notified by email once it's available. And now I'm going to pass you over to today's presenter. Hello, Lakshmi. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Sean. Hey, everyone. Quick thank you to Sean for inviting me for this webinar. And I've been attending this Fabric Week webinars and I've been enjoying them. Let's get started. And let me share my screen. Perfect.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I have a question for you. If someone asks you, what's your favorite Power BI visual? What do you say? Let me know in the chat. Let's see which visuals are liked by people. Mostly when I ask this question, right, I get answers like bar charts, line charts, donut charts, scatter plots, KPI cards, and even pie charts sometimes. But it's interesting. People are very limited to these visuals because either they use Power BI Visual Paint or they find these visuals in the custom app source. And we try to think about bar charts because those are the charts that we use mostly. But people ask me what my favorite Power BI visuals are or what my favorite visuals are in general, right? And my answer to them is a dumbbell chart, a progress chart, or a tornado chart. And people are like, no, we've never seen these charts available on Power BI except the custom visuals. And most of the organizations do not allow you download custom visuals. And would you believe me if I tell you that all these charts are actually created using the native visuals? No custom visuals, no complicated hacks, and we're not even sacrificing performance. That brings you to today's session, breaking the limits of native Power BI visuals. Today's session is about looking at native visuals a little differently. Instead of asking what visual I should use, we're going to ask what can this visual become? And hopefully by the end of the session, I think all of you will have a new favorite visual of your own. A quick warning here. This is going to be very demo heavy. If you think I'm going too fast or you want me to repeat something, please drop it in the chat. I have my chat open and we can take it over from there. Before we begin, quick introduction about myself. My name is Lakshmi. You can scan the QR code to connect with me on LinkedIn, see my portfolio, take a look at my blogs as well. I am a proud two-time Power BI Database World Championship finalist 2025 and 2026. I'm a Microsoft Power BI data analyst as well. I'm a Microsoft MVP in the data platform. I love talking about Power BI and I post a lot of blogs on Medium as well. On a professional level, I'm a data analyst at Missouri University of Science and Technology. So, since I'm a data analyst, I work with Power BI all day. On a personal note, I'm a dog mom. That's my dog Casper. Love going on adventures. Both of us are foodies, and I'm a huge advocate of diversity and inclusion. Something that I really like is making dashboards less frustrating and more fun. Let's talk about native visuals quickly. What people say that they're too boring, they're too limited, they're not flexible enough. I always have to go for a custom visual when I want more customizations. But then what actually happens is people use defaults a lot. They do not play around or tweak the formattings that are available. The design intent is missing. All they do is just think Power BI is drag and drop. There's no intent behind it. And lot of features are underutilized. And I will be showing you some of the features that I use on a daily basis. And a lot of them do not even know. Something that I realized throughout this journey is the tool was never the limitation, the approach was, the intention was. So what are we going to do today? Why this session, right? So most dashboards that we build technically work, they load, numbers are correct, charts exist. And the problem is the users still keep asking the same questions over and over again. That's because either users feel overwhelmed or they think that the important insights are just hiding, they're not able to find those. That's because we start focusing on features instead of understanding what's going on. We just start building instead of actually designing. So today what we're going to do is we're going to shift our goal from just report building to experience building. We're going to upgrade about how we think about the native visual. Quick game plan for today. We're going to reset our mind. We're going to open Power BI. I'll show you small new techniques. By the end, I want you to think that you've unlocked a new visual by the end of the session. What are we going to do today? We're going to start with a very basic bar chart. So we see very basic bar chart. We're going to convert it into something like this. And it might look very, you might just think that the colors have changed, but when I'm talking you through the process, you will understand the intention behind each and every design choice. And then we are going to take a bar chart and convert it into a lollipop chart. We'll also talk about the pros and cons of the lollipop chart. My favorite, we're going to start with a bar chart and then combine them into a beautiful dumbbell chart and all using native visual features. Then again, we're going to take a bar chart, convert it into two types of butterfly tornado charts. This is another one of my favorites. We're going to talk about progress bar charts. How do you show progress? How do you show percentages in a better way? And then, if time permits, we're going to design this beautiful widget. We'll go through each and every design intention behind it. And you will see that how one single widget design you see on the screen is going to give you so many insights at the same time. And with that being said, let's dive right into the demo. Perfect. Okay. So we are going to talk about the bar chart. Okay. So I took a simple bar chart. Let me just quickly reset. So what I've done right here, I have created a bar chart. I have product on my x-axis. I have variance percentage on my y-axis. Very simple. This is the default chart everyone sees, right? Now, what happens is this might solve your problems, but the end user is not really able to understand what's going on. Let me just zoom it in a little bit, get rid of this. Perfect. I hope the zoom level is okay now. Okay. Now this solves a lot of questions, tells me what's happening. But if I have to add a design intent to
Sorry,
it,
Lakshmi, someone just said, can you please zoom in a little bit on the presentation? Thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
okay. Yeah. Hope the zoom level is okay now.
Yeah. Thanks.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do right now is quickly add a couple of things. The first thing that I'm going to do is I do not like my visual floating on my page. I'm going to add a container to it, basically just adding a simple border. Going to go to my settings, switching on my visual border. I don't want a loud border, just making it a little subtle by making it gray. Now, next thing, I'm going to work on my title. Do you see how the title is very loud? And you see how it's very close to my border. How do I make it better? By adding a padding on the top. Just by adding a little padding, it looks much cleaner. Next, I'm going to reduce the size of my title. I don't want my title screaming at my face. Done. Next, I'm going to get rid of clutter. On the y-axis, I already know I'm talking about percentages. I'm going to get rid of values. I'm going to get rid of the title. On the x-axis, I already know I'm talking about my product. I'm going to get rid of my title. Now, just by getting rid of a couple of clutter, you see how I have more estate for my visual. Plus, it looks a little cleaner. Next things, I don't really like when these bars are really wide. Now, Power BI does not have an option of controlling the bar width. So what I found is instead of controlling the bar width, you can actually control the space between two bars. So if I increase the space between two bars, my bars automatically reduce the size of the width. The way you do that is I'm talking about columns. So I head into columns. And then I'm talking about the layout of the columns, go to the layout. And then you have something called space between categories. The more I increase the space, you will see the width of my bar change. So let's just keep it somewhere here. Now, the best part about this is you can actually save space in your reports by minimizing or maximizing the size. Now, imagine this was the default. When I reduce the size or when I increase the size of the width of the visual, you see how it becomes very cluttered. But when I have a space increased my categories, it looks much cleaner and much neater. So now what I've done is reduce the size of my width. Next, I want my end users to know what exactly the values are instead of just seeing bars. Quickly switching on my data labels. Let's reduce the size a little bit and we're good. So now my end user knows what the exact number is. Next, I don't like when my bars and my visuals are floating. And you see how I have positives and negatives. It will be great if I have a zero baseline or just an anchor point so that I know this is the starting point. Now, again, Power BI does not have a default app option of adding a zero line or a baseline. The way you do that is using a reference line. In the formatting bar, you will find reference line. Go ahead and use it. Click add line. And then you just have to choose the simple y-axis constant line. Once I add it, by default, you will see this dotted line. The best part about this is this dotted line can be customized. I'm doing a couple of customizations here where I'm changing the color, making it a little subtle. I always go with neutrals. Instead of dashed, I'm going to make it a solid line and going to reduce the width a little bit. That's it. You see how much cleaner it looks when I just have a baseline. Next, I want my users to quickly look at my visual and make quick decisions. Having color coding helps me do that. So what I do is quickly set up a DAX. Let me zoom it in. A simple measure which says if my variance percentage is more than 0, give me a green, return it in green color or give me a red color. Once I have my DAX ready, I am going to head over to my column section. In my colors, I'm going to change the color to that particular DAX and then hit OK. That's it. You see how now my positives are in green and my negatives in red. Now, just by making this particular change, right, you are directly guiding the user's eye. Okay, I really need to know where I need to work on, which products need to be worked on. I directly go look for reds and start working on them. So just by simple little tweaks, you can get a default visual which looks like this to something like this, make it more insightful and make it more neat and clean. So what we saw right now is a very, very basic formatting that we're going to use throughout the entire session. Any questions so far? Please let us know. Next, we're going to talk about lollipop charts. First, let's know why do we need to know about lollipop charts. Now, imagine this visual on the right, on the left, right? This is a visual that I have. Let me just push these this side. Now you see how I have like 8 to 9 item types. Imagine I have like 10 to 12 item types, and imagine these huge bars just blocking the entire visual. My entire visual is going to look, my entire report is going to look a little cluttered. So what you can do instead is convert it into a lollipop chart. Now, do you see how the same visual right here has been converted to a lollipop chart and actually gave me more space to work on? That is the beauty and magic of a lollipop chart. And also, it looks much neater. So imagine you have 10 or like 12 item types, it's going to look a much cleaner. The best part about this is it's not a native visual. We've just used the custom visuals in our tool belt. So I'm going to pick this visual and let me convert it into a lollipop chart. First thing to keep in mind, when you're talking about a lollipop chart, imagine a lollipop. It's going to have a stick and a candy on the top. The first thing that I'm going to do right now is convert all my bars into sticks. Now, how do I do it? We're going to use the previous technique. Instead, since we cannot adjust the bar width, we're going to adjust the space between the bars. How do you do that? We go to the formatting settings, go to the bars, go to layout, and then increase the space between the categories to the maximum. Quick tip right here. If you already know what formatting technique you are looking for, use the search option on the format bar. Really easy to find what you want. So since I said I'm going to look for space, once you just type in space, you will be able to see that particular property you're looking for.
Lakshmi, there's a question if
Yes.
that's okay.
Yes.
Can you do bullet charts somehow natively?
Yes, we can. I will show that right after this or towards the end of the session.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so the first thing that I did is I brought in the stick of my candy. Now I need to put a candy on the top. Very easy. This is going to be done using error bars. What we do is go to error bars, switch it on first. Once you enable it, you need to add your upper bounds and lower bounds. Now, I just need a candy on the top, so basically just the upper bound. Now, what do you add as an upper bound? Very simple. The same value or the same measure that you chose for the y-axis comes to your upper bound. So if you see here, it's going to be total price. Once I add that total price, I think you will be able to see there's this weird vertical line that pops up. That's it. That's just my candy. All I have to do is convert that line into a circle. The way you do that is just by changing the markers. So under error bars, you will find markers. So you see how it's a vertical line right now. You can convert it. Just use a marker shape as the circle. You can do that. And then I'm going to change the color so that it looks much neater and cleaner. That's it. You have your lollipop. Quick variations. When you play around with the marker shapes, you can even get arrows. So let me just quickly show you. All I did was just change the marker shape to my diamond. And you see how now I have arrows instead of lollipop charts. And all this was done just by using native visuals. So I hope all of you are going to go back and use lollipop charts. Perfect. I will also show you the bullet chart once towards the end of the session. Perfect. Next, coming to my favorite chart, the dumbbell chart. First, let's talk about why it's my favorite. I have a simple visual giving me sales by gender, male and female. It is very easy for me to find out. For product A, females have been purchasing more. For B, it's the males. And C, D, it's easy for me to keep comparing. But you see how it's too loud? In this particular visual takes the focus away from my entire report. Now, converting that into a very simple dumbbell chart like this makes it cleaner, makes it polished. And for people like me who get overwhelmed when things are thrown at me, this is very easy for me to digest. Couple of things to note here is in a dumbbell chart, you will be able to see the exact values. Like I see male, I see female. Now, since the female count is on the top, easy for me to find out, easy for me to conclude that females have been buying more, males have been buying more. Another thing, when the distance between two markers also tells me the gap in the purchase. You see here, very easy for me to find out the product I has a huge gap, has a gender parity, and I need to work on it. Why? Product D has been doing pretty good because the gap is much smaller. So using a dumbbell chart actually helps you give extra insight, makes it look very polished, neat, and clean. Again, just by using native visual. How do we do that? Let's pick this particular simple, very simple chart. Now, this is a native visual, right? This is basically a clustered column chart by Power BI. All I did was selected sales, selected my gender as legends, have my products. The first thing that you need to do to get a dumbbell chart is start with a line chart. So all I'm going to do is convert it into a line chart. That's it. Done. Next, I need to add the markers, right? So what I'm going to do is first get rid of the lines because I don't want to see the lines. So we do not see any zigzags. Now, Power BI does not have a feature of removing lines, or you can just switch them off, or something that I do is just turn the transparency off. So there are two ways of how you could get rid of lines. Let's switch off the lines. Next, we're going to use the same technique that we used for the lollipop chart to bring in the candies. So here, if you see, dumbbell charts are basically dumbbells, right? I have a stick in the middle and two weights on the side. So what I'm going to do right now is first, same method, going to enable my error bars. Then I am going to use my measures to put in my total male and total female measures. Quick recap. In the lollipop chart, I had the candy only on the top. So all I did was use the upper bound. But now I need both sides because we're talking about dumbbells. So we're going to use the upper bound as well as lower bound. Once I add it, again, you see how I have those vertical markers. I don't need the vertical markers. I need circles. So again, I'm going to go ahead to markers and change it to the marker shape. Next, I want, okay, I mean, this looks good, but I'm not able to figure out what is male or what is female. So I need to go to my marker settings and change the colors. The way I do that is I select male first, change the color to blue, and then you can select female, change the color to pink. And that's pretty much it. Now you have a beautiful dumbbell chart right here. Quick thing to note, if you ever use a error bar, when you hover over the data points, you're going to get some weird extra elements inside your tooltip. You see how I have something called upper and something called lower? That's because I use an error bar and it comes by default. What you can do to get rid of that is in your error bar section, you will have something called tooltip. Just switch them off. That's it. Once you switch them off, you will not have any extra elements. By default, it is on. So make sure you switch it off because it's going to look really weird when people hover over it and see upper or lower. And that's pretty much about the dumbbell chart. Now, since we've seen lollipop charts and dumbbell charts, I would like to know from all of you, which one did you like more? Do you see yourself using the lollipop chart, or do you think dumbbell charts are going to be your favorite from now? Let me know in the chat. I will make sure to look at it. Perfect. Shrestha says lollipop chart. Great, great, great. Okay. So what we've seen right now is quick bar chart modification. We spoke about little design choices that make big differences. We spoke about lollipop charts. When I have too many values on my y-axis and I want the visuals to look neat and clean, a lollipop chart is the way to go. Next, we spoke about dumbbell charts. When I have a clustered chart and then it looks too colorful or too loud, it's always better to convert it into a dumbbell chart. Why? One, looks much cleaner, much polished. Two, it gives me extra insight, helps me easily figure out what's going on. And next, we're going to talk about a butterfly chart. What is a butterfly chart? We're going to pick the same cluster chart where I have my products, my sales, my males and female sales. we're going to convert it into a butterfly chart. Obviously, butterfly because it looks like a butterfly. What is the benefit of this? So, for people, one, for accessibility reasons as well. For me, I have a little bit of ADHD and anxiety. So when I see two bars so close to each other and too many things going on, I really start getting overwhelmed. But when I see something like this, which is much clean, much clearer, easy for me to compare, I feel happy, right? The end user is going to thank you. Now, in the butterfly chart, there are a couple of things to note. One, you see how I have my product values in the center. I have my males on the one side, I have my females on the other side. Quick drawbacks right here is this is made out of two visuals. So this is one bar chart right here, and this is another bar chart right here. So if you go ahead and decide you're going to change the sort order of a particular bar chart, you have to make sure that you change the sort order of the other. Else, it's going to give you a wrong value. And I also have a workaround where I found another way where you don't have to do this. But I'm just going to explain this for all of you.
Hi,
The
Lakshmi.
first,
There's
yes,
a question in
yep,
there, if that's okay.
yep,
I didn't quite get how you got the line between the limits in the dumbbell chart.
yes, I will show it to you again. So that comes up automatically when you use the error bars. So the first thing that I did for dumbbell chart is convert it into a line chart. And then I'm going to get rid of the lines. Once you open the error bars, enable the error bars, and then when you're going to throw in values, you see how I just put my measure into my upper bound, you automatically get that particular line. So it's by default, so you don't have to worry about it. I hope that answers your questions. Perfect, thank you for that. Great. Going back to butterfly, very simple. I just created one visual, a simple bar chart. You, and then instead of throwing in my gender male and female, I just throw in my male sales. So this is a simple measure, calculating my male sales. Perfect. I changed the color to blue. I have it all good. Next, what I did is instead of male sales, I'm just having total female sales, changing the color to pink. Perfect. Now, in order to invert it, the first thing that I need to do is I do not need to see A, B, C, D, I mean the product names again. So I'm going to get rid of my y-axis. The way you can invert this is you go to your x-axis, you have something called invert range. So once you click on invert range, you see how the ranges have been inverted. Once you do that, just adjust your size according to the other visual that you have and just put it right next to it. And something that you could do is group both of these visuals. That way, when you try to move these visuals, they're going to move together. Quick tip right here. Whenever you're grouping visuals in Power BI and then you try to move, for example, when I do this, sometimes this happens, right? The entire group doesn't move, only the visual moves. So whenever you're trying to move the group entirely, use these three dots on the top. This is how you could quickly group and move the group. The way you group the visuals are just click the visuals together, do a right click, you could do group, or just use Control G. That's how you can group visuals in Power BI. Perfect. So what we did right now is took two simple bar charts, one for male sales, one for female sales, inverted one of the visual, threw both of them together. And when I was talking about make sure whenever you use this, one thing to remember is do not sort only one chart. So now, for example, you decide that you want to sort it in a descending order. You see how the other bar chart does not change. So make sure you're very clear with it. Now, I didn't,
Lakshmi, someone just
yes.
asked, how do we group? I think you already answered it, but some might have.
Yes, I did. I did. Yes. Now the problem here, when I saw this, I didn't really like the way things were. Like I did not really want to keep grouping everything again. So what I did is found an alternate. Kurt, I will answer your question right after I tell you this. Okay. So what I did, now you see how I created this visual, and it is just a single visual, very easy to visualize. what I did first, I created a clustered bar chart. Now, one quick tip for all of you right here. If you want something on the other side of the axis, all you have to do is negate the value. Now, what I did is I created a new DAX measure, picked the female sales, just multiplied it by -1. So what happens when I do that? What I'm going to do right now is get rid of my female sales and use my negative sales. You see how just by flipping it, I was able to get it on the other side. Another quick thing to note is when you are trying to convert a clustered chart, basically here that's where you find to a stacked chart. So now this is a stacked chart. You need to convert it into a stacked chart first. So the things that I did is convert the visual to a stack chart, create a new measure to negate my value so that I get it on the other side. Perfect. So now I got it on my other side. Next, I really need to differentiate both of them. So I'm going to go around and play with the colors of my bars. Simple, going to my bars, selecting my male, converting it to blue, selecting my female and converting into pink. Next, like I told you, I don't really like when the bars are too big. Going to go ahead, play around with spacing a little bit to make it a little cleaner. Next, it's pretty good. I'm able to understand this is the female side and this is the male side. But I need to have a reference point or a reference line so that I know that this is the separation. This is the point where everything gets segregated. Remember the very first trick that I taught you, the reference line. Going to go ahead, add a reference line, change the color. So I have like a blue dotted line. I'm just converting into gray, reducing the size and making it solid. Much neater. Now you might ask me that the data labels say minus. I do not really want my end users to be seeing negative values. This is a quick trick a lot of people ignore is in data labels, you can actually change the data label values. The way you do that is you go to data labels, select which particular data label you want to change. I want to change it for the negative female DAX measure. And then you go to value. You see how by default, it will always pick the negative female. So whatever you feed in the visual comes up here. But since I do not want to see my negative, what I'm going to do is simply drag and drop my positive value. That is it. So when I just simply drag and drop my positive values, everything is positive now. Another quick thing. I do not want to see neg female in my legends. How do I change it? Very simple. When inside your data field, you just do a double click and rename this to female. That's pretty much it. Now, the best part about this visual is no matter what you sort, no matter what order you sort, it's everything is going to be sorted both together. So remember the butterfly chart that we spoke about before, where I have to sort everything to separately. In this particular visual, I do not have to do that. So let me know if you like this trick. Let me know if you're going to use it again. And quickly going to look into the question. Kurt asked, how do you account for keeping the size ratios properly proportionate? You can't make the visuals exact same size because the axis labels and the other doesn't. That's a good question. Generally, when I use the butterfly charts, right, I tend to use it for percentages because I know 100 is going to be my end limit and it works great with percentages. For this particular data set, the percentages didn't look really good and I wanted for all of you to just have a clear look. That's why I went with values. Another thing that you could do is actually add in data labels. That way people are going to know that this is the starting point and this is the ending point. Hope that answers my question, Kurt. Perfect. Now, after the butterfly chart, we're going to look at another favorite chart of mine, which is called a progress bar. Now, what is the advantage of a progress bar is it helps you track progress. Again, works great with percentages. Since I am from a higher education and I work for Missouri University of Science and Tech, and something that we like to track is, say, weekly performance of a student. So what you see on the screen is I have a couple of student names and then I have a beautiful weekly performance tracker everyone gives, say, like some sort of mock test. Everyone is scored out of 200, and this happens every day. When I change the values of my students, the names of my students, you see how my gray neutral bar stays the same because that's my maximum limit. And then the values inside it keep changing according to the marks the people scored. Looks like Arjun is a bright student. You see how he has 200 here. So, quick tip on how you can create progress bars is, first, you need to create a measure which is, let me just throw it in here, a maximum measure. Now, say when you're talking about percentages, it's obviously going to be 100%. Now, here, since I'm talking about scores, I have 200, right? So I have max to my maximum. Let me just rename this as max. My max score is 200. What I'm going to do is simply create a new visual. I'm going to pick the clustered bar chart. Going to throw in my day short. Let's put in my weekdays. So I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on the side. And then I am going to pick my maximum mark, so 200. And then I'm going to pick the actual mark or actual score of my student. Then let's clean it up a little bit. Let's get rid of the Saturdays and Sundays because no one really wants to work on Saturdays and Sundays, right? No one really gives exams on Saturdays and Sundays. Making it a little bit cleaner. Perfect. Now, let's start working our way like we did before. One, I'm going to add a visual border because I don't want visuals floating around. Next, I don't want my title to be sticking to my visual, so I'm going to add in a little bit padding. I don't want my title screaming at me, reducing the size of my title, making it a little more relatable. Let's rename it as Weekly Performance Tracker. Quick tip for all of you. You see how I have an emoji inside my title. How do you add emojis? One, search them on Google, copy it from there, paste it here. Or if you are a Windows user, you have an inbuilt emoji pane in Windows. The way you activate that is, you have this Windows icon on your keyboard. Click on that and click the period or the full stop. Repeating it again, to open the emoji pane like this, all you have to do is click the Windows button and the period or the full stop button. That will open up something like this. And then just go ahead, like I'm talking about targets. Go ahead and click target. You will get emojis. Just by clicking on emojis, you can keep adding the number of emojis that you want. So hope that helps. I don't really use emojis much, but I really like to use emojis when I want to guide the user's attention to a particular visual. Perfect. So I have my title ready. And coming to legends, I'm going to get rid of my legends. I do not read legends. Y-axis, I already know Monday, Tuesdays are weekdays. So getting rid of the title right there. And let's totally get rid of the x-axis. Now, the first thing that I need to do is overlap my bars. Now, since I'm talking about my bars, I directly go into bars, talking about the layout of the bars. Next, I'm going to enable the overlap option. Once you enable the overlap option, you will be like, oops, nothing happened. That's because I don't know if it's intended. Once I click on overlap, the space between series appears and it tends to be 0. And that's the reason there is no overlap happening. Once you keep increasing, you see how the overlap starts happening. Perfect. Once I made it 100%, my overlap is done. I can make it a little smaller by adjusting the space between categories. Sometimes you might see something like this, where one of my measure is hidden. Just click on the flip overlap button here. You will be able to bring it back. So now what I did is I added my actual scores. I added my total score. So now the light blue indicates my total score and my dark blue indicates my actual score. Now the end user is not going to know what my light blue is because as a visualization person, we might think they denote two different values. So it's always better to make it neutral. the the thing that I like to do is when I have the maximum values, I tend to just gray them out. If I have my maximum 100 percentage, I'll just gray them out. This way, my user knows that I need to focus on the blues rather not on my grays. Once I have my blues in, the next, my end user needs to know what the exact value is, right? I'm just going to go ahead and enable my data labels. Now, again, when I enable my data labels, all my data labels get enabled since I have two different measures there. The way you can actually turn off is under series, select what you want to turn off, switch it off for you. You see how the 200 vanishes. Next, I want to throw my values inside the bar so that people don't get confused whether 100 belongs to blue or to the gray bar. The way that I do is very simple. Select that particular measure and choose inside base, throw it inside, and that's pretty much it. And now you will easily be able to see the changes. So that's how you can convert a simple, instead of simply showing something like this, and that's what we do, right? Instead of showing something like this, isn't it better to show something like this? It's easy for me to compare that this is my total score and this is what you have scored. So that's how you can convert a simple bar chart into a progress chart. Now, this works amazing with percentages. Again, since the nature of the data set is a little weird, I couldn't do it. But imagine you have 100 percentages and then you're going to show the percentage of each student, 20%, 40%, 50%, works really, really well. And you could even convert it in a vertical way. So say you are talking about temperatures, or you're talking about, you have certain goals. This is how you can show those. This is my goal and this is what I've achieved. So I hope you like the progress bars and you would also be able to use those. Next, let's quickly jump into widgets. I really want to show the bullet chart that was asked in the chat as well. So let's talk about the widget designs. First, what is a widget, right? Nothing. Widget is basically just a combination of different things together, makes more insightful. Now, instead of me just showing the progress like this, instead of just showing a progress like this that changes accordingly, don't you think something like this makes it much cleaner, much better? Why? One, the user is going to start from the top, going to read my title and immediately know I'm talking about weekly performance. My subtitle gives a quick insight without even going inside the visual. Without even getting into the visual, I know the person Karan has achieved 3 out of 5 goals already, and it's dynamic. So you see, when I click on Mira, it became 4 out of 5. Arjun is again 4 out of 5. Rohan is 2 out of 5. So the best part is before even getting inside the visual, you get the insight on in the starting itself. Then on this particular visual, you see how I have crosses and ticks. Very easy for me to understand, right? Like, this person needs to focus on Mondays and Thursdays because that's where the crosses are, but has done really well on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So these emojis add extra insight. Next, say I have a target, right? Like, I have a fixed target, 115 in this case. You can add a line like this. Easy for me to figure out if the person has scored more than the target or less than the target. And the best part is it's dynamic. One thing to note here, since the target is a fixed value here, you will not see the target line moving, but you can actually have a dynamic target value as well. Just need to create a DAX for that. So now let's look at what are the things that this particular widget is teaching me. One, it's giving me a quick insight in the initial stages itself. I know that 4 out of 5 goals have been achieved this week. Next, when I get into the visual, I know what my target is. It's 115. I know exactly what the scores are because I have my data labels. I also know if the person has performed above target or has performed below target. I also have the name of my weeks here. Now, let's look at how we could do this, right? The first thing that I want to focus on is, let me get rid of a couple of things and then we'll talk about it. Okay, the first thing, title, very simple. We just go to a title and type it out. Then this particular 4 out of 5 goals is put into my subtitle. The way that you can get a dynamic subtitle is just by using a very simple DAX. I have my total days fives. I'm just counting my achieved days. Achieved days is basically when my score is more than the target. And then I'm formatting a line out of it. Very easy. What are my achieved days? Typing in my out of what of my total days, what is the goals achieved this week. That's it. Very simple format. And then I'm just going to throw it into my subtitle. That's it. Two things done. Next, I have a simple this is how it looks, right? I have my product days on the y axis, I have my scores on the x axis. Next, how do I bring in this target value? Again, we are going to use the reference line. Now, the reference line, instead of having 0, I'm going to throw in my target value as 115. You can have it as 120 or whatever you like. For this case, let's just stick to 115. You can play around with the settings, change the colors, change the style. Remember how we always use solid lines? This is a great place where you could use a dashed line. So perfect. Now I have this beautiful widget that tells me that Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays are always above target, but Wednesday is below my target. Couple of things that you could do is color code them like we did initially. Use reds and greens. Now, at least at my organization where accessibility is really important, reds and greens don't really make sense. People are not able to differentiate among them. So that's when we try to use these little icons. The way you do that is one, first, we need to, since it's on the other side of the axis, remember how I told you we have to create a negative value. So what I did is I created a simple measure, a negative bar, which is minus 20. I am going to throw it in my x-axis. So now you see how I have my minus 20s right here. I don't want to see those blues. I want to get rid of the blues. What you could do, one, either change that particular blue to white, or something that I like to do, since you cannot get rid of it, I just turn the transparency to 100%. That's it. You see how that value has gone. Now, I don't want to see minus 20, right? I need to see those ticks and crosses. What do? First thing, I'm going to create a very simple measure comparing if my current score is more than my target, show a tick or show a cross. Again, we can click on the Windows button and the period to enable our emoji bar. And this is where I got my ticks and crosses. So once I have this particular measure ready, I'm going to replace this minus 20 with that particular measure. The way you do that is, again, you go to your data labels, pick the particular data label. So here it's the negative bar. Go to value. You cannot get rid of this. You need to override this just by dragging and dropping this in. That's it. You see how I have my crosses and ticks. All I did was drag and drop my measure. Next, play around with the sizing. Like you want it to look a little bigger, play around with the sizing to get this required visual. And that's pretty much it. Just by adding a reference line, creating a false negative bar, making it transparent, replacing my values with icons, you get this beautiful weekly performance tracker that gives you a lot of insights at a single go and is very, very accessible. If you think you do not want to use reds and greens, icons are the way to go. Much easy, much neat, looks pretty, and people will actually want to use this. With that being said, these are the great options that I wanted to show you, how you can use your native visuals, tweak it out, and get something new out of it. I had a question where someone had a question. They wanted to know if you can create a bullet chart using the native visuals. You surely can do that. How do we do that? So when we're talking about bullet chart, like you need to have a target. So let's say my daily target is 115, and then let's have my score of a person. So let me just copy paste this. Meanwhile, if you have any other questions, please drop it in the chat. More than happy to answer that. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is just going to filter it down to one particular student. And then going to filter it down to just one particular day. So let's just do Tuesday works. Yep. Now, okay. And I am going to, okay, I have a very simple visual here. And then say I have a target. So bullet charts need to have a target, right? So say I have a target 115. When I need to create a bullet chart here, what I have to do is go to my error bars, enable my error bars, throw in my values of my target in both upper as well as lower bound. Go to your markers, increase the size of your markers, change the color to whatever you feel like let's just do as black, and that's how you get your bullet chart. So now, since my markers, my targets is the same for all the days, you were able to see that it all aligns together. But if you have dynamic values, you will be able to actually be able to see the difference. So I hope this answers your question. I am not sure who asked the question about the bullet chart. So for the bullet chart, the only thing that you need to do is add upper values and lower values together. And if you want, I could also show it with the slicer. So since my target is fixed, it doesn't move, but this is how you could create a bullet chart. Easy to find out if it's more than my target or less than my target. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer. Hope you've learned something new. I would really like to know which is the trick that you want to maybe play around with, or you think you're going to use. Perfect. There's a question. Actually, I wanted narrower bar inside a wider bar. So, okay, yeah. So that's not called a bullet chart though. But I can quickly show you how you could do that. Okay, what happened? Paste. You can have two bars inside each other just by playing around with the sizing. Oh, since we are at it, I would also like to show you something like this, where if you think it's too colorful, right, you can change the transparency to 0 to 100% and then just add in a simple bar. It looks much cleaner, right? I mean, when things move, if you don't like that neutral, this is another way how you could do a great design choice as well. To answer that question, by playing around with the values, right, you can actually get in your yeah, so like just by playing around the values with the space between the bars, you can have overlapping bars like this. For people who are going to use your IBCS format, this is a great way. Choose borders and then play around with the spacing to get overlapping bars. This is really good for year to year when you're comparing year to year, or you're comparing your previous years or previous weeks. This is a great way to go about it.
Perfect. Just another question there is, how can organizations maintain consistent dashboard design standards while still allowing creativity and native visuals?
Yes. The answer to that is two things. One is having a theme file really helps. So the way you create a theme file with color. So I'm just talking about the colors for now. Use a theme file. You can customize the current theme and export it out. Next, when you're specifically talking about native visuals, something that I like to do as a best practice is, say if you are the lead Power BI data analyst who decides design choices, build a template file. When you build a template file where you're like, I need all my bar charts to look like this, all the sizes, it has to be 12, it has to be blue, it has to be the size of this has to be 16. Do it with all the visuals that you can. For example, a bar chart, a table, a matrix. So that is going to serve as your template file. Now, what you're going to do is simply pass the template file to a junior data analyst. Whenever the junior data analyst is going to create a visual, they're just going to create a visual, open the template file, use format painter to simply format it out. That's it. Very simple, right? I mean, when you have visuals that you can use format painter, it's going to make things really easy. It's going to format all the format settings. That way, whatever formatting you have in your visual, the junior data analyst is also going to use the same formatting. So, two things: have a theme file, have a template file, make sure everyone uses that. That's how you can have consistency in your organization.
Perfect. There's another question there is, can I create a template from those charts?
Yep, like I just said, like you have something like this, have it in a separate file. Unfortunately, you cannot do it like individually. You could do it using PBIP formats, a little complex, where you save this entire report into a PBIP format. If you have a PBIR enabled, you have like a JSON file that you can play around with. But for beginners, for someone who just started with it, best way is use Format Painter. Have a template file with all possible visuals. If your organization uses lots of cards, lots of tables, lot of matrices, you have each page with that, and then all you have to do is Format Painter, put it in the other visual. That's it. That's the best way of how you could create templates from those stats.
Perfect. That looks like all the questions. So on behalf of the ESPC community, we'd like to extend a big thank you to you again for taking time out there, Cards webinar. Really appreciate it, Lashmi.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thanks everyone for joining, and I'll see you at the next webinar. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.